Hi, welcome to Books and Beyond. I'm your host, Jimmy Bennett. As you know, my show, we try to expose the local creative talent and interesting people. Um, I do want to make two announcements. One is there is a Southeastern Connecticut CAPA meeting tonight. It's a Zoom meeting. You can find the address on the SECAPA website. And the other thing is, for a sad note, I just wanted to give my condolences to Dan Blackstone's family. Dan was a member of Kappa. He passed away recently at the venerable old age of 93. Extremely accomplished man. He had a full life and quite a prolific author also. And just sort of a funny aside, I had asked him to be on my show last year, and I said, Dan, I said, I'd like you to be on my show and, talk about what you've done. And he said, well, let's hold off a little bit. I'm not through yet. I said, so God bless you, Dan. Godspeed. And so today I have a really great guest, a really interesting man, Michael Whitehouse. He's the guy who knows a guy. And, I'm going to let him explain that to you. How you doing, Michael?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show, Jimmy. So the guy who knows a guy term comes from my book, The Guy Who Knows a Guy. And that all started back in 2014 when I moved here to Southeast Connecticut, knowing absolutely nobody. So at the time, I had the idea of creating some kind of consulting business, and honestly, that's the best definition I can come up with, was some kind of consulting business. Didn't really have a solid business plan. So rule one, have a plan when you launch a business. But I knew I needed to meet more people and make connections. So I went to my first Chamber of Commerce event the day before we moved here. And because of the way we had to move, it was involved my wife's job changing, and our apartment was tied into the job. So we had to move very quickly. We ended up in Groton because she happened to know some managers of an apartment complex, or apartment community. And so we were able to get in quickly. We knew nothing about the town except it was close enough to her new job, and we could get an apartment. I would later learn there was a submarine base here, if that gives you an idea of just how little knowledge I had of the area. So I knew nothing. So I started going to chamber events. I started reaching out and connecting and getting to know people and just building connections. And 9 months, a year later, I was talking to people and mentioning names who everyone knew in the town they were in. So I'd mention a name of someone well-known in New London in Groton. And people in Groton who had been around for a long time, who I assumed should know everybody, would be like, who's that? Then I realized I was getting all these connections across different towns, different communities, cutting across all kinds of boundaries, and I had a pretty substantial network and could make introductions. I could introduce two people who had lived here all their lives to each other, who had never met, and I just got here a year or 2 years before. I was later on approached to fill a vacancy on the representative town meeting here in Groton. I was invited to join the Groton Rotary Club, and now I'm the president of the Groton Rotary Club. And so kind of people got to know me, and I realized I was doing something in the networking space that other people weren't doing, and that I knew what I'd done. It wasn't, sometimes, like people sometimes ask me, how are you so comfortable speaking in public? I can't teach you how to do that. I just don't get stage fright. So step one, don't get stage fright. Step two, good luck.
Yeah, run with it.
Yeah. But with the networking, there was a system I'd followed, which is basically fairly iterative, but I was able to follow that, and because I had a system, I could write it down. So I said, let me write it in a book, and actually, I believe Lisa Saunders was one of your members before she moved away. She was the one who said that everyone should write a book, and I said, I could write a book about networking. I know this networking stuff. So I wrote a book, 76 pages. It's not a long tome, but it's got a couple of actionable exercises and just kind of ways of thinking and ways of approaching things, and gotten a lot of good feedback on it. And so during COVID times, when things kind of shifted and changed, I had the opportunity to focus on coaching, which I've always done kind of casually. I help people out. I give them advice. When they take it, it tends to work out well. I can motivate people. Yeah. And all of a sudden, everyone needed to pivot and adapt. And I said, I might be able to help with that.
Right.
And so I picked up the nickname, because when you write a book called The Guy Who Knows a Guy and you go to a lot of chamber events, you get the nickname, the guy who knows a
Knows
guy.
a guy,
Oh, hey,
yeah.
look, it's the guy who knows a guy.
Yeah.
So that became an obvious brand to use, and so that's kind of how I really sunk into that title.
Yep.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is so one of my coaches, she talks about affirmations. I am a millionaire. I am a great salesperson. And I'm like, I don't like the affirmations because I don't like saying things that aren't true, even if they're aspiring to be true.
Right.
So if I say I'm a millionaire, well, I'm not a millionaire. So I've got that voice in my head saying, "Are you really?" But I kept introducing myself as I'm Michael Whitehouse, the guy who knows a guy, which is just kind of my
Right.
title. And in the videos I do a podcast, Michael's Motivation, in which I say I'm Michael Whitehouse, the guy who knows a guy. And I realized that almost became an affirmation
Yep.
because I was saying, it wasn't just someone who knows people, but it was kind of that whole identity in it. And then I sort of grew into what I was saying I was. And
That's wow. I tell you what, that is. I think it's an interesting thing, and it's a great thing. I mean, I've grown up here. I grew up around here. I've lived here pretty much my whole life. I was a Navy brat, but after that, we've lived here, and I know a lot of people.
Mhm.
And like you say, sometimes people ask, well, I need this done. I mean, how do I, or do you know somebody who does this? Yeah, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But there's could be a lot more to it.
Yep.
Keeping it connected.
Mhm.
And you're right. I mean, I'm very, very surprised. I mean, I think it's a great thing because everybody needs something or some help with something at one point or another, and to find somebody who can say, hey,
I got a guy.
here it is.
Yep.
I got a guy. I know a guy.
Yep.
Which I know it's one of the things you have is I got a guy.
Yep, that's one of the sites on my website.
Yep.
Which I don't promote it very well because it's really it's a place to exercise my network.
Right.
And one of the things that helped me grow my network, and I talk about this in the book, is by saying, I got a guy, whatever you need, send them to me. Come to me, let me see if I can help you. It's a lot easier to make connection when you have someone who needs something, especially for business. So if I want to meet roofers, well, why does a roofer want to meet me? If you need your roof done, and now I can go to roofers and be like, hey, I've got a friend, he needs his roof done. I want to talk to you for 30 minutes and see if you're someone I want to refer. Well, now it's the pre-interview to get to the customer behind me.
Oh.
So that's a way to leverage building my network. A lot of people think of a network as something that you use up, like a resource. Be like, well, I could ask Jimmy on your behalf, but I might need something from him, so I don't want to use that favor up.
Yeah.
But that's not how it works. If I have a friend who needs something and I introduce them to you to get that thing done, and you help them, you're not going to help them if you don't get something out of it, right? I'm not going to say, hey, could you give my friend $1,000? You're going to be like, no, unless you owe me.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a debt. But if I, even if it's I got to get someone who's moving and they need help moving and you're free and you help them move and you get some exercise and they give you some pizza and beer afterwards and you had a good day, you helped out, whatever. Our relationship is now better.
Yep.
So network is much more like a muscle that as you use it, it gets stronger. The more you do for people and the more you ask of them, the better that relationship becomes. So as long as you appreciate it, you're not just taking. Like, hey, of course you're going to help me out with this one. If you're appreciating it properly, you're going to build that relationship and build that connection. So yes, it's beneficial to me to have people ask me for what they need because then I get to build my network and strengthen it in that process.
Right. But you do the legwork, though. I mean, that's what I'm saying. You do the interviews. You talk to people.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing. Because I think a lot of people, I'm hesitant about recommending a lot of people because if they haven't actually done anything for me or worked for me or, I've seen their work, it's a crapshoot. You might as well go through the phone book, right? Yeah. I mean,
Well, and I will admit I don't do like a full background check, but I'll often ask around, say, hey, if I don't know someone, who do you know? And then I'm looking for, are they an honest person? Because I'm assuming if they're professional in their industry, they are properly certified and skilled.
Right.
And because usually the way things go wrong is not that someone doesn't know what they're doing, but it's that there's some kind of miscommunication very often. And so having that third party involved, so if I refer you to somebody and then there's an issue and you're in conflict, if one of you comes back to me and you both explain it to me, then I can often be like, oh, okay, I see what's happening here. Right. So you thought he was going to do this, and you thought that it was going to be this much. And I think this is what you're both saying. You're both like, oh, okay, now I get it. And then, because so often, if you're thinking, well, I know what I expect, and he's thinking, well, I know what I told him. I see this a lot with people in business that they've got, say, in their agreement, the 3-page thing you sign when you start working with them. Well, it's right there in the middle of page 3. Right. If you just read the agreement, you're like, that's part of it. That paragraph is 2 inches long. I didn't read it. Who reads every paragraph? But it was in my agreement. So you often get those kinds of things. So having someone to kind of be like, whoa, okay, calm down. And of course, there's a relationship at stake. With me, so people don't want to, throw that away. So that helps too, to kind of smooth things over when things go wrong, which they often don't. Because often by having that trust factor, and it's interesting because I'm in the process of buying a house right now, and I joke that I'm doing the BNI way. So BNI is Business Network International, which is a really structured networking organization. And a lot of the people I'm working with, in fact, there's almost no strangers involved in this process for me. I don't know my septic guy, but my home inspector, my realtor, my mortgage guy, my attorney.
I know a septic guy, but anyways.
Actually, I did know a septic guy, but the homeowners. Oh, the seller. We know the seller too. So everyone in this process is someone that we already know. And I'm thinking about like how tenuous and terrifying buying a house is. If I didn't know and trust every person in this process, I can't imagine what it would be like to work with strangers to buy a house or to buy a car. Like my last car I bought from someone I know. Got my insurance guy is someone I know. And so it's good to have that network, because even if I didn't need it for business, which of course I use it all the time for business purposes, even if I didn't need it for that, it would still be valuable for whenever I need something. Just for myself. And actually, of course, I'm here. Because I believe I think it was Larry through Toastmasters. Connected us. And so just so many things come, and a lot of just kind of have that networking attitude. That idea of I want to meet more people. It's valuable to meet more people. And then if you're a good person who doesn't like to impose, realizing that you have value to offer people too. Because a lot of people are like, oh, why would that person want to meet me? Well, you expand their network. You create some value for them.
That's what that was going to be my my next kind of thing I was going to talk about was I mean, obviously you're a good talker. Obviously, you know what I mean? You're out there. You're an extrovert. Do it a lot. You know. But there's other people that don't have that gift of gab or that knack. How does that person build like a networking type of thing? Do they just need to break out of their shell, or?
Somewhat. So networking doesn't necessarily involve approaching a lot of strangers, especially in the age of the internet. So there's a few things that someone who's more shy can do. One thing is they can approach them in a digital format. So connect with them through a Facebook message or an email. And many people are more comfortable with that kind of approach than a phone call or walking up to somebody. Of course, that's going to be somewhat less effective. Pretty much everyone I walk up to and talk to, I end up talking to. Not often are people like, I don't often get ghosted in person. Whereas when I send a Facebook message, it's 1 out of 3 respond. If it's someone I don't have an existing relationship with. But the other thing about networking is fantastic for shy people, because you get started and then you get introductions. So you find a couple of outgoing people. I don't say extrovert, because there's such thing as shy extroverts. In some ways, I'm a shy extrovert, because you wouldn't think of it, but I don't really like just walking up to strangers and talking to them. I'm not the kind of guy who, I mean, I'm married now, so I don't do not this kind of guy at all. But I'm not the kind of guy who could like walk up to a girl at a bar and just be like, "Hey, what's up?" If I psych myself up for it, I can do it, but I'm just not just like going over and doing that. And same thing with networking events. I'm not comfortable just walking up to someone and talking to them. I kind of ease into it. So I actually discuss in my book one of the strategies of, because if there's someone standing by themselves, just sort of looking around, it's pretty easy to talk to them. They're looking for someone to talk to. But you rarely see that in any kind of social environment, because they'll find someone else to talk to, and if they're really shy, they'll just talk to them all night. Never let go. You know, two people are shy if they talk to each other for an hour and a half event, because they're like, don't let go of it. But so what you can do in that situation is in a networking event, parties aren't quite the same, but networking events, people are there to meet people. So I'd say you can kind of drift over near the conversation, kind of casually get in there, listen as they're talking, nod along, and if you find an opening, you can maybe interject something. And if they are polite and attentive, they'll notice there's a third person in their party, or fourth or fifth, depending on how many are there, and someone will be like, oh, hey, I see there's, what's your name? Welcome. Which sometimes happens, sometimes doesn't, depends on who's there. But people who are active alert networkers, they're trying to meet people. So when they see that new person in the group, they find that a good opportunity to engage, and that pulls you in. But so in terms of, in some ways, some of the networking techniques I developed were because I don't like directly, aggressively meeting people.
Right.
I try to be the person who talks to people in the supermarket and whatnot, but it's not natural unless there's a natural opening to do so. So I learned to network because if I can get an introduction, it's way easier than just having to drop into your office or pick up the phone and call cold. Yep. And of course now I've got enough practice that I'm a bit more comfortable with it. But.
So I mean, I imagine you must encourage people to join organizations like CAPA, the Connecticut Authors and Publishers Association, things like that, whatever they have an interest in. And I can, I can see where you come from for that, because I can remember my first CAPA meeting 3 years ago.
Yep.
I mean, I stood outside for about 10 minutes, just, not sure whether or not I should go in, and felt weird. I didn't know anybody in there, and then 2.5, 3 years later, I was, one of the co-directors for a while. I just stepped down a little while ago. And I met a lot of wonderful people and learned a lot of good things. And I think that's a lot of what you try to promote, right?
Yep. Yeah, and that's something that's great, is kind of building a pen around your intended network. It's harder to network in the broader community.
Right. Because
networking works really well when I meet someone who knows someone and they know someone in common. Like, oh, Jimmy. Yeah. Oh, Elizabeth. Lisa. It makes it feel like you're part of something. My first business out of college, I owned a game store, board games and role-playing games and whatnot. And it was really a community space that was secondarily a retail space, which is why it never made any money.
Yeah.
But other than not making money, it was a very successful business.
Yeah.
Because it created that community space, and it created that pen around a community so that I knew where to find them. I'd go to the store, there they were.
Right.
And there were a couple other organizations kind of spawned out of it, but it was all enclosed.
Yep. And
when I moved down to Connecticut and didn't have that, I'm suddenly realizing I don't know how to meet people. I can't just go to the place where the people are. It was we used to joke it was like Cheers without the bar.
Yep.
You went in there and everybody like, hey, Norm.
Yeah.
So having that, whether it's Kappa or Rotary or Toastmasters, or even I think some people find that in government service, the RTM or the Economic Development Commission, or any of those groups you're part of lets you see the same people week after week after week. And volunteering is a great way to do that, which in some ways, Kappa's volunteering. Any of those organizations you join, you're either volunteering or paying to be in.
Yeah.
And so it seems weird to think of service like that, whatever it is. But I was recently invited to join a particular committee to give my skills for free. So I'm going to be through this committee coaching people for free, but in exchange I get to be on the committee.
Okay.
And the committee has a number of influential people on it, and people of note, and business leaders in the area. So it is worth me giving my services for free and giving my resource free in exchange for the connections I'm going to make in there. And I think that's something often overlooked, is when you volunteer, especially boards of nonprofits. A lot of these nonprofits around here, you have you have all kinds of very influential people on them. I had Michael Rauff, the president of Chelsea Groton, on my podcast, the Guy Who Knows a Guy podcast, recently, and he was talking about the service he does in the community, volunteering on different boards in different areas, and how that's a very powerful networking platform for him, because there's a lot of other people with titles like president and CEO and COO on these boards, especially the large organizations. But sometimes if you either have some skill to offer or a lot of time to offer, you can get onto these boards and rub shoulders with really influential people, especially for younger folks. You often have that issue of like, how do I get into the business world? How do I get a better job if I don't have the experience? I can't afford to go and get a master's degree. I can't afford to maybe get a bachelor's degree. I can't get more skills. And how do I get experience? I can't get the job.
Right.
Can't get the job, can't get the experience, can't get the experience, can't get the job. But if you are young and have the time, and for some people it's not going to work if you're working 2 jobs to support kids and a family and whatnot. That's not it. But if you're young, you don't have kids depending on you, you've got some time, maybe your time is going to recreational activities and you could redirect that. You could instead put that to, you approach United Way, L&M Hospital, whoever it is, and say, hey, I've got 20 hours a week, and I want to participate in a major way. I don't just want to help out around. Like, I've got some skills in whatever it is, web design, proofreading, copywriting, whatever skill they've got. That's an opportunity to say, like, can I maybe become an associate board member or an actual board member?
Yeah.
Some groups might say, hey, if you got 20 hours to give us, we'll give you a seat on the board.
Yeah.
And as the president of this and the CEO of that, and like little Jimmy.
Yep.
And so 9 of the board members bring a big Rolodex or a big address book. I have someone proofreading this book for the next revision, and the word Rolodex is in it. And she's like, I don't know if the younger readers have got the word Rolodex.
Yeah.
So I put a footnote explaining what a Rolodex is and said, go Google it. It'll be interesting. A number of the members are bringing a Rolodex full of possibly people with money to donate and resources and whatnot. And then one of the members brings his time. And he's able to do legwork like no one else can do because he's got the time to do it.
Right.
Or technical skills.
Yep.
I've found, in almost every office I've worked in, I was the IT guy because I knew how to plug in a printer and restart a computer. And
yep.
So you never know, what you can bring to that. And that gets back to that kind of the, unique personal value, what it is you can bring to any group, because everyone's got something to bring, whether
yep.
it's time or humor or computer skills or connections or something. Everyone's got something to bring.
Right.
And when you go out there looking to give, BNI has the expression giver's gain, which is that if you focus on what you can give, you will gain.
Right.
It's okay to gain.
Yeah.
But it's not okay to go out being like, gimme.
Right.
If you go out saying, I have this for you, this for you, this for you, and not saying, I have this for you, now give to me, but just
yep.
give, and things tend to come around, opportunities come around.
Good.
Well,
no, I mean, it makes sense. One thing you just mentioned your podcast that you had
yep.
the president of the bank on.
Yes.
Now, tell me about the podcast and how's
yep.
that going?
So actually I have 2 podcasts.
Yep.
My more formal podcast is the Guy Who Knows a Guy podcast, which you can find by searching
yep.
Guy Who Knows a Guy or on my website. And on that, in the first season, before I was fully focused on coaching, it was more about kind of showing off my network. So I'd have various people I know come on, tell their stories, and share how they got where they are or something they have to teach. It was interesting because it's very diverse, all kinds of different people talking about all kinds of different things. And then I sort of took a hiatus as I was shifting my focus. And so the next season, which the next episode is coming out tonight as we record this, where I'm interviewing Kevin Booker from New London.
Okay.
And it's more focused on almost a Q&A type format. So people can send us their questions, their problems, their challenges, anything from I lost my job and don't know what to do to I'm starting a business having these problems with employees to, whatever it is. And we will take those questions, and I'll have a different guest on every week. And I'll take the questions and kind of put them to the right kind of guests. But I'm now focusing on guests who have something to teach, something to share.
Right. That
really, for anyone, particularly people who are either in entrepreneurship or considering, because to digress briefly, a lot of people are saying, the American dream is dead and it's not like it used to be, which is true. The old American dream of you graduate high school, you get a job down at the factory, and you buy your house and your white picket fence and what. Yeah.
Your 2-week vacation a year, your RV camper, and you know.
Which also like that existed for a period of 25 years in American history.
Yeah.
It didn't exist before 1950.
Right.
And it didn't exist after 1975.
Right.
So people think is this long-standing thing. It was a very brief time in history. It was sold by Madison Avenue. But there's a new American dream, which is based on entrepreneurship. And so no, you can't just go get a job and follow the job and not think about it. You know, life's not that easy. But the opportunity exists that most people have a skill that they can make a business out of.
Right.
And whether it's designing a website or copy editing or research or ghostwriting, or any number of things, I've yet to meet someone who I say, nope, I can't find a skill you can do anything with. Every person I've talked to has some skill that they could either do as a side hustle or as a freelance business or as their main business. So the podcast is really for people to help them realize that, if you're trying to build your career like it's 1975, you're going to have trouble. But fortunately, the internet's come a long way since 1975. And there's a lot you can do from anywhere, especially, one thing I point out when I talk to people down the South, where the minimum wage is $9 an hour, but you can live on $25,000 a year, is the internet exists. You can sell your services to people in New York City.
Right.
For whom $200 is nothing.
Yeah.
And that's a week's wages for you.
Right. Yeah.
So there's so many opportunities. So that's really what the Guy Knows Guy podcast is focused to, is that audience, and of course business owners and people who are, even if you are a business owner and you're more further down that entrepreneurial path with marketing advice and whatnot. And then I also do a second podcast called Michael's Motivation, which the name actually came from, I started doing it to motivate myself. So it's not Michael's motivation for you. It's the motivation for me recording this podcast. And it's basically an off-the-cuff. I do it every day. And I share it on a number of different platforms. It's in podcast form as well. And it's 1 to 5 minutes, just kind of sharing tips and advice. Anything from like yesterday or today's podcast was reminding people to appreciate what's in your backyard. I shot it down at Stonington Borough. And the sun was setting, and the ocean, and like people travel 1,000 miles to come here.
Yeah, to see that. We see it every day.
It's 12 minutes for me, and I haven't been here in a year. So just those kinds of things, or talking about the importance of your health, or talking about, and then sometimes I talk about business stuff, whatever's comes to mind. And I get so much because it's daily, so I get feedback. People are always seeing it, and as you said to me before we started, you said, I see your face everywhere,
right?
Because I shoot a video every day.
Well,
put it out there.
I'll tell you what, that's incredible. I thank you for being on the show today. I'm sorry we're running out of time really quick here.
That's okay.
But
I talk a lot.
It was great, and the importance of networking is can't say. I mean, even me, my side hustle is being an author. I mean, I write books. It's been tough during the pandemic. I'm not out doing my events. I'm not out meeting people. I miss that a lot, but I'm trying to, stay in touch, and you've given me a lot of great ideas. There's a few more. I wish we had more time. There was a lot more things I could go over with, but perhaps you'll come back again, and we'll move on.
And you got a TV show. That's a good start.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the reason why I did it. I mean, I do it. I like to bring out, like you say, network, but I also like to let people show their creative talent. There's a lot of people, like you said, everybody's got a skill. Even if they don't know it, they do have a skill.
Yep.
And if they find it, they can use it. And networking is a good way to get it out there and thing. Well, I think you're doing great. I'm looking forward to keeping an eye. I'll be watching your podcasts and look for your videos. And I want to thank you very much for being on the show today.
Oh, thanks for having me on the show.
All right. Well, thank you. That's been Books and Beyond for this week. My name is Jimmy Bennett. Good to see you, and see you next time. Take care.